What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to talk about jerkbaits, actually. So some of you might be asking, why am I doing this video right now? It's the summertime, it's hot. Jerkbaits are typically used in the winter. And you're absolutely right. Typically jerkbaits are used in the winter. However, I got to thinking the other day, the bass are currently right now at this lake that I fish at all the time. They're chasing shad. Schooling up just a little bit, and they're starting to chase some shad. So basically what I was seeing the other day was the fish were either suspended off the bottom a little bit, or they were up in the water column inevitably looking for shad. And so I got to thinking, and I was like, well, what can I throw that's going to imitate a shad, a wounded shad, or fool this bass and fool the bass into thinking that there's some bait fish in front of them. And one of the things that I'm most confident in, honestly, is a jerkbait. And so I threw a jerkbait around just last week. The water was like, I don't know, 85 degrees or something like that. Or that was what it was reading on my Humminbird units. And so I started throwing around a jerkbait. Actually, threw around a jerkbait very similar to this one. So this is a Rapala Ripstop 12. And anyway, I got several bites off of it. So we'll probably review some of that footage while I go through this. Before we go into how to go fish a jerkbait, let's talk about the different types of jerkbaits. So the very first type to talk about is a suspended jerkbait. So a suspended jerkbait, like the Rapala Ripstop, you cast it out, and you're gonna work the bait. You're gonna twitch your rod, and this bait is going to stay suspended in the water. So it's not gonna sink, but it's not gonna rise either. To call it a scenario where a suspended jerkbait works really well would be kind of like the other day, where, like I said, there were fish down at the bottom, but there are also fish up in the water column about 3 to 4 feet deep. And this Rapala Ripstop kind of sits in that zone, and it would just sit there and stay. So I was working this Ripstop, and when I was getting done with twitching the rod and all that stuff, and I was letting it rest, or I was trying to reel in the slack or whatever, it was staying in that 3 to 4 foot zone or whatever in front of the bass, and staying in the strike zone for quite a bit longer. So that's when you might use a suspended jerkbait. Another type, which I believe this is one, is a sinking jerkbait. So a sinking jerkbait just does just that. You work it, you let it rest, and it'll sink. Super helpful for maybe the fish are chasing after shad, or you're in the wintertime and they're a little bit deeper, or maybe even right now in the summertime where there are some that are pretty deep. If you can get a jerkbait down there and imitate some shad or something like that, you might have a little bit of success. The third type of jerkbait, which I don't believe I have one actually, but I'm going to throw up this other one, is a floating jerkbait. So a floating jerkbait will float. So you can get it down, you can work it, and then it'll float back up. Some of the jerkbaits, depending on the brand or the style, some of them will float up like this with the tail end going up. And then I believe there's some out on the market too that would kind of go up with the head first. So just a different look, just a different thing you can throw at them and see if you can catch some fish and see what they key in on. So now let's talk about the noise that some of them make. Some of them have beads in them, or clackers, whatever you want to call them. I believe every single one of my jerkbaits that I have has them. I just found this one actually. This one needs a little bit of love. I forgot I had it for a little bit. But this is like a Rapala, I believe it's a Husky or something like that. I can't remember what the name was. But I think this one might actually float. I could be 100% wrong on that, but I can't remember to save my life. Now I'm going to talk about why you would throw a jerkbait and what kind of situations might call for a jerkbait. So like I said before, so the lake that I go to all the time, I live in Arkansas. We've gotten a ton of rain this year. I think we're gonna get some tomorrow actually, but I think it's supposed to rain for like half of June. But anyway, so we're getting a ton of rain. So the water at this lake that I'm at is typically pretty clear. It's not like Minnesota, you know, reservoir clear or anything like that. But it's pretty clear for Arkansas, but it's gotten a little dingy, a little stained or whatever. And so the shad, or not the shad, but the bass are really keyed in on shad right now, and they're chasing shad. So I wanted to throw a jerkbait for a couple reasons. One, it imitates shad. And two, jerkbaits have a lot of flash to them. And you combine the flash with the clacking, you can get a lot of attention from bass. Now, the day that I went out there and I threw one, I didn't catch anything of really big size or anything like that. And going back, I think I should have thrown a sinking jerkbait and gotten down there a little further down or whatever to see if I could get some of those bass that are kind of hugging the bottom or suspending off the bottom. But that's neither here nor there. But you want to throw a jerkbait whenever they're keyed in on shad, or whenever you're trying to get a lot of attention, because these things, especially this ripstop, I mean, this ripstop is killer. So you see the front lip here, and then it also has a back. And what that does is it pretty much stops this jerkbait in the water. So once you're done jerking or twitching the rod, it'll stop immediately, which is really nice because it just gives it some crazy erratic movement. And I've always had some really good success actually with the Rapala ripstop, both in the 12 and I believe this is a 9. Yes, this is a 9. You can see this one, maybe. You can see some teeth marks on there. It's seen some action. But anyway, that's kind of when you throw a jerkbait. So in the summer, I run the medium heavy with a fast action on a Corrado with a 7.4 to 1 gear ratio for the larger jerkbaits. And then for the smaller jerkbaits, I'm using a medium and with a fast action, or with a moderate action, I think, actually. Also paired up with the Corrado. Reason being is with the fish roaming around and all that stuff, I want to cover a lot of water, so I want a little bit of bend, a little bit of bend in there to really cast that jerkbait out there. So now let's get to working it. Let's talk about working it. So you'll see in the videos I'm going to play, I'm working this thing fast. I am casting it out there, and I am immediately trying to work this bait. I'm trying to jerk, and I'm just going. I'm twitching the rod, I'm jerking, I'm popping, I'm doing all that stuff. And basically I'm on the reel almost the entire time trying to keep that, kind of trying to reel in that slack and really let that bait work. And the reason is because around this time of year, or where that differs from winter time, is that fish are more active right now. The bass are more active and less lethargic than they are in the winter. And so they're going to go after and they're going to chase some of this shad looking bait. And they have the means to do it right now. Whereas in the wintertime, guys typically fish it. The cadence is typically pop, 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 rest, pop, pop, rest, or some variation where they pop, pop, rest, pop, pop, rest. Maybe throw in a third one every now and then. Maybe they throw in 4, whatever. And in the summer, you almost have to throw it out there and just give it hell the entire time. Just pop, 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 and just reel in as you go. Maybe throw in a little rest, a short rest every now and again or whatever, just to break up the cadence. But you really want to just keep on working it. It's the summertime. They're looking for shad. They're hungry. The bass are hungry. They're roaming around. They're looking for these shad. And honestly, what you're trying to do with this jerkbait is you're trying to mimic a bait fish or a shad or whatever, and you want to use the jerkbait to its full advantage. So you want to use that flash. A lot of them have flash, right? And you want the bass to notice the flash. So in order for them to do that, or to increase your odds or your chances, you really want to work this bait to make sure you can get that flash going and get them to notice it. All right, so you're working this jerkbait, you're ripping it, you're jerking the rod, you're twitching, popping, whatever the hell you want to call it, or whatever the heck you want to call it. So now let's talk about setting the hook and kind of what the bite feels like. So the bite on a jerkbait is going to be different than a soft plastic in that you're moving this bait and you're gonna kind of feel a wall. It's just gonna be like just a smack, right? And some of them are softer and some of them are harder or whatever. But when you feel that, you don't want to, and you can see it in the video, you don't want to hook set like you are with a soft plastic or anything like that. When you feel that bass, you kind of want to just lean into and let the treble hooks do all the work. Okay, so we talked about the different types of jerk baits. We've talked about how to fish it. We've talked about my gear setup and how, what I use when I'm using jerk baits. And we've talked about setting the hook and all that stuff. We've not really talked about the sizes a whole lot. And sometimes I size down. So like this Rapala 9, Ripstop 9, I'll size down and I'm just as successful, if not more so, than with a Ripstop 12 or something larger. So don't be afraid to size down a little bit and see if the fish are keying in or on a smaller profile. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please, like and subscribe this video. Comment below if you've ever fished with a jerkbait in the summer. And if you guys do try it or whatever, and you guys see some success, please let me know or ask any questions if you're not, and maybe I can help you out. If you haven't already, please take a look at my Instagram. It's the same handle as my YouTube, so TrumanH_fishing. Give me a follow there. You can see some behind the scenes stuff as well as just some more personal stuff that goes on in my life. So yeah, I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one.